Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube NFL prediction segment, I'm going to be giving you my picks and analysis for Week 15 of the 2018 NFL season. So anyway, well, first game up, I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs at home over the LA Chargers. First off, it is a short week. Kansas City is at home. And the thing is, it seems like practically every game, Thursday night game, has been won by the home team this season. So anyway, Kansas City's a flawless 6-0 at home. They're #1 in total offense. They have dominated the series in recent time against the Chargers, winning the last 9 against them. Now, the Chargers they are regarded by many as one of the best teams in the NFL right now. They're one of the more complete teams. I don't know the status of running back Melvin Gordon, but I do know that the Chargers had a number of drop passes in that first meeting against Kansas City. This will likely be a very tight contest. Quarterback Philip Rivers is very consistent. He's had at least 2 touchdown passes and 200 yards thrown. Whether it may be all of his games that he's played or almost all of them, but he has been a model of consistency. This game will probably, I could see us coming down to the final possession, but Chiefs, I do like them at home, and they have had the Chargers number in recent times, so I'm going to take the Chiefs at home. Next game, I want to take the Houston Texans to win on the road against the New York Jets. Houston, okay, they had their winning streak stopped last week by Indianapolis. Thing about it is they are a team right now, though they did win 9 consecutive prior to that loss. They have been playing much better than the Jets in recent time on average. Their defense has been very good during that stretch that they had when they had the 9-game winning streak, which was shortly snapped. Now, the New York Jets are going the opposite direction. They've lost 6 of their last 7. They got a win last week against the Buffalo Bills. I don't know if that's really saying a whole lot. But the Jets right now may very well be decimated with injuries. I know that the running backs Crowell and I believe Cannon, their status may be questionable. And they're certainly not healthy. Even if both of them do play, they probably won't be 100%. And the thing about it is, the Jets right now they just have 1 win against a team with a winning record this season. So I'm going to take the Houston Texans to win this one on the road. Now, next game, I want to take the Denver Broncos at home to defeat the Cleveland Browns. You look at Denver right now. That's another team had their little winning streak stopped last week. But during those 3 or 4 games that they did win in the 3 of the last week, they've won 3 of the last 4. Their defense was very solid during that stretch. And they've also, again, this is another team that's dominated another team in recent times. Denver has won 11 consecutive games against Cleveland. Cleveland is 2-28 on the road since 2015. However, they do have 28 takeaways. The defense is very opportunistic. I just don't know if Baker Mayfield can go down there, go into Denver and pull this one out for the Cleveland Browns. I think Cleveland's the defense on Cleveland in terms of the takeaways and maybe creating opportunities for the offense may keep them in this game, may make it a little more competitive than some may think, but I do like Denver to win this one at home. Next game, I want to take the Atlanta Falcons at home to beat the Arizona Cardinals. I know Atlanta has been abysmal lately. They've lost 5 consecutive games. They haven't eclipsed 20 points in that streak. I think they may break that streak in this game against the Arizona Cardinals. Atlanta still is averaging about 24 points a game. Arizona's averaging about 14. Arizona is going to have a lot of trouble moving that ball. I believe they are one of the worst teams in terms of time of possession in the NFL. They just aren't going to have many sustained drives. Wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald is one of the few bright spots actually on this team. Total offense is not good at all. It's very meager. This is a team that just really has trouble generating much offense. They were trounced last week by Detroit at home 17-3. They're not going. It's really hard for me to see them going into Atlanta and generating much offense. I like the Falcons at home. Next game, I want to take the Buffalo Bills at home to defeat the Detroit Lions. Buffalo surprisingly is number one in passing yards allowed per game. Their total defense is solid. Just 2-4 at home though, but they are number one in the NFL in forced fumbles at 21. They will create some opportunities, this defensively, for the offense in this game. Now, Detroit may be ravaged with injuries. They're just 2-4 on the road in 2018. Marvin Jones is going to be out, like I believe. And also, I mean, this is a Detroit team. The one good thing going for them, though, they do have the better quarterback with Matt Stafford. This probably will be a very tight game. I wouldn't be shocked if Detroit goes in there and wins this one. They won on the road last week and held Arizona to 3 points. They may be able to do something similar against Buffalo, but I think Buffalo's what's going to happen is I think their pass defense is going to be good enough to contain the Lions' offense with their receivers. So I do like Buffalo at home. Next game, I'm going to take the Chicago Bears at home to defeat the Green Bay Packers. Bears have been very good at home this season, 6-1. They have a very tenacious defense. They're number one in the NFL in defensive interceptions, 25. Number 3 in scoring defense, and their offense is really not that bad at all. I mean, it's really overshadowed by the tremendous defense they have. They're one of the better scoring defenses in the NFL. But you look at this Green Bay team. Now I know they got the new coach. They won last week, but the thing about Green Bay is they're 0-6 on the road in 2018. I understand. Again, you talk about a team that's dominated another team. Green Bay has won 5 consecutive games against the Bears. It would be very easy just to look at this superficially and say, well, Green Bay should win it. But Green Bay is struggling right now. It's not just the fact they're 0-6 on the road this season. They've lost 5 of 7. They and actually, if you remember, the first game of the season, I believe it was, Green Bay beat Chicago, but Chicago actually had a lead on them for the majority of the game and had played Green Bay very well, and that was at Green Bay. So I think Green Bay has been competitive in most of their road games. They probably will be in this one, but it's not going to be enough to beat Chicago with that stifling defense they got in at home. Chicago held the Rams last week to 6 points. I mean, I wouldn't surprise me if they hold Green Bay to 14 or 17 in this one. I like Chicago at home. Next game, I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals at home to defeat the Oakland Raiders. Now, these defenses are both putrid to say the least. Cincinnati's given up 30.5 points per game. Oakland's like almost 30 per game. Cincinnati just on virtue mainly of them being at home. They've averaged about 24 points per game. They played the LA. They played last week. They played the LA Chargers very well. Just lost by 5 points to them. But Oakland, I mean, it's going to be a little easier challenge despite Cincinnati not playing well lately. Oakland, though, sorry people, Oakland right now, I mean, just 11 defensive sacks. They may have gotten 1 sack last week. They're only averaging about 19 points per game. Oakland, they got a little swagger after beating the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it's not going to be enough to propel them in this game. I like the Bengals to win this at home. Next game, I'm going to take the Indianapolis Colts to win at home over the Dallas Cowboys. This should be a really good matchup. I mean, Indianapolis, you talk about Andrew Luck being one of the better quarterbacks in the league. But you look at Darius Leonard. I mean, he's leading the NFL in tackles. Very unheralded player. You don't hear a lot about him. He's overshadowed by that the way the Colts have been playing on offense with Luck and their tight ends. The main reason I actually like Indy in this one because I think there might even be a little more urgency in this one in contrast to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys, I know they won 5 consecutive games and everybody's ready to, put them, they're starting to become one of these elite teams, I think, in some people's mind. Running back Ezekiel Elliott is one of the leaders in the NFL in rushing yards. I understand wide receiver Amari Cooper, he has been on a rampage. He has had 473 receiving yards in the last 3 games. But Indy seems like they're becoming notorious for being streak busters lately. They ended the Titans' a little modest, I think, 2-game winning streak. Then they ended Houston's 9-game winning streak last week. They actually ended Jacksonville's streak. It was a losing streak Jacksonville had before they played Indy, and Indy lost to them. So they actually ended 3 different streaks right there. And Dallas comes in winning 5 consecutive games. What do you know? I think the trend very well will continue. I like Indy to get this one. And they're going to have more urgency, I think, because Indy needs to play for their playoff lives. Dallas could lose this game, and they're still going to be in first place. And they're going to, it's not going to really impact them too much in terms of their any potential positioning as far as playoffs may go. And they'll still have that division lead. So I think, and they're also going on the road, and this is going to be, a very good game. I like Indy in a close one. Next game. I like the Minnesota Vikings at home to defeat the Miami Dolphins. Now, Minnesota, again, they're one of these like enigmatic teams. They really did not play well last week against Seattle. They just put up 7 points. That last touchdown came very late in the game. Seattle basically had their way. Their defense had their way with the Minnesota Vikings offense. Now, Minnesota believed they got rid of their offensive coordinator. I don't know if this, sometimes when you get rid of somebody on a team, and sometimes it rejuvenates them and revives them, maybe that's what will happen in this game. I think Kirk Cousins has taken a lot of heat, more than he deserved. People have to remember that a team is comprised of a lot more than just one player. I believe also Minnesota had a number of drop passes last week, which certainly didn't help matters. And I'm not saying Cousins doesn't have any accountability, but he does, but it's not all on him. Now, you look at Miami right now. They're just 1-5 on the road in 2018. They're like a completely different team on the road. They played very well. They had that miraculous win against the Patriots last week. But Miami is just number 29 in passing yards allowed per game. Cornerback Xavier Howard, his status may be questionable. The team does have 19 defensive interceptions. Miami may make this somewhat close because of that, because of the fact they have playmakers on this team. But I do see Minnesota having their way generally as far as moving the ball on offense. I think they're going to accumulate a number of passing yards in this game. I expect the team to redeem themselves after a deplorable performance last week. And they are at home, 4-2 at home this season. I'll take the Vikings at home. Next game. Well, I'm going to take the New York Giants at home to defeat the Tennessee Titans. You look at the Giants right now. This game will probably be a barn burner. Giants have won 4 of their last 5 games. They could have easily had 5 consecutive wins, but they lost a tight one to Philadelphia in that stretch, and they had squandered a lead late in the game against the Eagles. Wide receiver Odell Beckham did not play last week, and they still annihilated Washington. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that Eli Manning was able to disperse the offensive weapons a little bit better, and there was less pressure to get it to Beckham in this game. You hate to think that Odell Beckham might be a little bit of a distraction, but I'm really beginning to think that's a possibility. Don't get me wrong, he's a dominant player. I think he's likely a top 10 NFL player. He's a great individual talent, but maybe there's just some kind of distraction with him with this team. And I think, when he's, you don't want to say the Giants certainly aren't better talent perspective as a team without him, but can they actually play a little bit more cooler, a little bit more relaxed without him? I'm just beginning to wonder about that. Now, the thing is with the Titans, running back Derrick Henry is starting to really come on strong, but the Titans are just 2-5 on the road in 2018. They have won a couple games in a row, but this is one like the Vikings, one of those enigmatic, unpredictable NFL teams. It's really hard to gauge them. They're very it's almost nondescript. It's really hard to see what they're going to do one week to another. Just the fact they're on the road, and the fact the Giants have been playing better in recent time overall in contrast to Tennessee. I'm going to go with the Giants to win this one at home. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back in. Now, anyway, now the next game, I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars to win at home over the Washington Redskins. Now, this is like one of those toilet bowl games, but I think Jacksonville, they're going to have that 10-day rest from their last game. They took a strong beatdown from the Tennessee Titans. But the Jaguars, I believe, are going to redeem themselves. After that terrible defensive performance they had, uncharacteristic of them, even though they haven't been playing well lately, They allowed 426 yards. The defense allowed that many yards in that game. Jalen Ramsey is going to just have to probably do a little bit less talking, more playing. You look at Washington right now. They lost 5 of 6. They could easily have lost 6 consecutive games. That one win was by 1 point. They were trounced last week by the New York Giants. Now they got to go on the road and face a Jaguars team that was completely, demoralized their previous game. For me, and in Jacksonville being at home, again, I do think they're going to redeem themselves strongly in this game. They want to show that they're much better than that team. I don't know if they're much better, but they're better than that team that was blown out by the Titans in their last game. So I'm going to go with the Jaguars at home. Next game, I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens to win at home over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baltimore, as I always talk about, the ravenous D. With them, they're number 1 in scoring defense and number 2 in total defense. One of their players last week was saying something about, well, I don't remember his exact words, but he basically was stating that, Baltimore is not looking for moral victories, that they wanted to go into Kansas City and win that game. They're not getting any solace out of the fact that that was a competitive game. And I like Baltimore's attitude, and Tampa Bay, I just don't like the way they're playing. 1-5 on the road this season, number 27 total defense, and 31 giveaways is number 1 in the NFL. I think Baltimore is likely going to win the turnover battle. I think their defense is going to be better than what the offense is on Tampa Bay, so I am going to take the Ravens to win this one at home. Next game, I want to take the Seattle Seahawks to win on the road against the San Francisco 49ers. Seattle has been on a rampage lately. They have won 4 straight games. They won last week 21-7, and they only had 72 passing yards. The ways they can win sometimes seems to be unorthodox. They did a lot with their running and their defense last week, and they won. And another domination going on in this series. Seattle has won 10 straight against the 49ers. Now, and Seattle is number 1 in rushing yards per game. I think Russell Wilson's legs are going to help enable them to win this game. San Francisco right now, they have 0 wins against teams right now that are currently 500 or better. They only have 2 defensive interceptions on the season, just 5 takeaways. I think Seattle is going to have their way in terms of moving the ball against this team. And San Francisco, they might have gotten a good win against Denver last week, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it to Seattle what they did to Denver. Seattle is playoff bound. San Francisco basically is really looking at perhaps getting a good draft pick this coming season. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks to win this one on the road. Next game, I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers at home to beat the New England Patriots. Pittsburgh is just 3-3 at home. They have struggled recently. They were, another team that was demoralized was certainly the Steelers last week, losing to a hapless Oakland team. But Pittsburgh is number 1 in the NFL with 45 defensive sacks. Last week, Pittsburgh just had 40 yards rushing. They're going to be without James Conner. And I think that can play an integral role in this game. But my feeling is Pittsburgh is going to run for a little bit more than they did last week. I think the running game is going to be improved enough to get this win. New England, it's just hard to trust them on the road. I had actually had Miami winning that game last week before I changed it to New England at the last moment. New England, again, just 3-4 on the road this season. They're allowing 22.5 points per game. New England, though, rarely loses consecutive games, but they're just number 23 in passing. In terms of allowing in their pass defense, they're number 23rd in the NFL in passing yards allowed per game. I just think that the Pittsburgh offense, I think it's going to be good enough to be driving the ball. I think they're going to have enough sustained drives in this game. I just don't know if I trust New England's defense in this one, and the fact that they've just had some struggles on the road. And this is a team, with New England that you can usually you can look at a game like this and say, oh, they should have a really good chance to get this one, but not right now. And even though Pittsburgh hasn't looked well, I think Pittsburgh right now they're playing for their playoff lives at this point. New England is gonna New England could lose this game and they're gonna make. I think they'll still make the postseason. So I'm gonna take the Steelers to get this one at home. Next game. I'm going to take the Rams at home to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. The Rams right now are 6-0 at home. They had a terrible game last week. It was a devastating loss to the Bears. But looking at the Rams, Todd Gurley only had like 28 rushing yards last week. He's apt to do much better in this particular one. I don't see Todd Gurley having consecutive bad games. Rams only scored 6 points last week. But Philadelphia's defense is nowhere near as good as Chicago's. Philadelphia, though, is number 11 in rushing yards allowed per game. The secondary may be ravaged with injuries, but they beat the Rams last time, 43-35 last season. But I don't think that's really going to play any role in any great confidence. Well, we beat them last season, so we should be able to get them this time. I don't think, that's going to really matter because the Rams are improved this season, and sadly Philadelphia has regressed, and they're just not, to me, having to go on the road to play a Los Angeles team that really probably underachieved last week. It's not a good thing. The Rams will be up for this one at home, and I do believe they will beat the Eagles. I like the Rams at home. Last but not least, New Orleans. I'm going to take them on the road to beat Carolina. New Orleans, basically, they control their own destiny right now. If they win out, they'll get the #1 spot in the NFC. New Orleans has won 10 of 11 games. They are 6-1 on the road this season. They are #1 in rushing yards allowed per game. Their run defense has been phenomenal. Carolina has lost 5 consecutive games. They've allowed about 30 points per game in that stretch. Tight end Greg Olsen, of course, he's out for the season. Carolina just not going to have, I don't think they're going to have the offense to be able to keep up with the Saints offense in this particular matchup. Their offense right now is such where it's good but not great. I do like New Orleans with their weapons, with Michael Thomas, Drew Brees. I think there's going to be too much offensive weaponry for the Panthers to have to contend with in this one. I'm going to take the Saints to win this one on the road. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube NFL prediction segment for my Week 2018 Week 15 NFL picks and analysis. And until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.